Good evening, everybody, or actually, rather, good morning. I was planning on leaving here probably about 2 hours ago, but a really interesting thing that kind of came into the picture was I was watching one of Dr. Rodney Brown live stream or televised church service on YouTube called Prophecy, and I included a YouTube link in my description. And basically, the interesting thing is, I'll kind of give you a little gist of it, but there's a lot of good information in there. You should watch every single video and live feed that he does because there's bits and pieces of information and some of the other stuff that leads up to this point right now. And it's not only from a religious aspect, but it, you can't obviously trust in the news nowadays because the news nowadays is basically they're sitting there ridiculing Trump and they're sitting there ridiculing all your Republicans and you got Hillary Clinton and Nancy Pelosi sitting there whining and complaining and proclaiming they're great Catholics. And basically, Hillary Clinton should be in prison, a life sentence in prison for being a traitor to the country. And Pelosi, she and her son should also be in prison for being such terrible people. Not only is she not doing a favor to the country, but she belongs behind bars, and so does Clinton. Put Billy Clinton behind bars as well. That way you can get him out of the way and you don't have as much chaos. So that's not the whole main reason for the stream. But basically, from what I've been observing through these videos, there is a lot of powerful information, and it basically talks about a lot of like what's going on, like with the vaccines and a lot of what's going on with like the Constitution and some of the fundamentals behind. Because basically, I got to give a lot of credit to pastors that have fought to keep their churches open. It's a shame because all your Catholic churches they pretty much surrendered their rights to have church, and it just kind of these few pastors that have elected to keep their church open and fought tooth and nail. It takes a lot of courageous efforts to, and basically it shows God and the Holy Spirit and what I'm trying to say is those that fight tooth and nail to keep their churches open, it's not about the building. It really isn't. But basically, if you don't have a building to go to, how are you all going to gather in one place? There's some people out there that say, so basically they're just going there just to worship the building. No, it's not that at all. You got to have a place to gather. You got to have a place to assemble. How can you assemble when you don't have a building to go to? When you sit in your house and you watch these televised church services, it's not the same as actually going to a place and gathering together and just kind of being amongst one another. And those people out there that are fearing this coronavirus, like I've stated 100 million times, there's nothing to be afraid of. How can you be afraid of something that you don't even know what it is? If you want to sit there and watch the news and live in fear and be consumed by it, go ahead. But there's much more to life than being afraid and being all consumed. And it's like the universities. The universities are making a big to do about this. A lot of schools are all worried because they think everybody's going to catch the corona. And bull crap. This is when they had H1N1 breakout in like a decade ago. The United States, did everybody get all frantic about it? Worry about all the death rates and no. When Ebola broke out, sure, there's only 5 cases at the time, but did everybody get in such a mass panic? No. When influenza broke out, did everybody get in a mass panic? No. Of course not. But it's your government putting in the fear in you. All your doctors are putting the fear in you. All the people at the CDC, the news outlets are making it a lot worse looking than it actually is. The main $1 million question here is that you have to ask yourself, do you know anybody with COVID-19? I've asked a lot of people, do you know anybody that had it, or do you have it? And they're like, no, I don't know anybody that has it. Do you know anybody? I'm like, no. That's the $1 million question. And there's other very important circumstantial questions. And basically, to run around out in public with a mask on and have a hazmat suit on, that's overkill. If you have faith in Jesus and you have faith in the Holy Spirit, you don't need any of that stuff. Basically, it's a cripple to have to go out in public like that. And all those people out there that are sick or in hospitals right now, they're living in fear. They've pretty much given up. They've pretty much lost all hope, and they've pretty much cast God aside. And all those people on TV that claim that they're religious, saying that we shouldn't have had our church services because people are dying, and it was a terrible idea to think about having it. It's the devil basically taking over them. The devil working on them to the point where they've lost hope. And you cannot let that happen. You gotta cast the demons away. You gotta rebuke the devil. You gotta rebuke those that are trying to manipulate you into being scared. You gotta rebuke the hell out of them and renounce them in Jesus' name. You gotta fight this. This is a spiritual battle. It's not over yet. We got a long ways to go, but eventually it's not going to take a mass amount of people to do this, but just a small minority of religious people, because eventually Jesus will show up before us, and his spiritual healing and the power of healing is beautiful. You don't need doctors and medication, and that's all sorcery, and medication, that's all sorcery. All hospital stuff is all sorcery. People with major ailments at this time, they're so consumed with this pandemic business that they wish themselves to get sick. They wish themselves to experience problems. They wish themselves. They're basically putting the doom on themselves, and you can't do that. You have to keep your head high and tell yourself Jesus isn't going to let me suffer. But the thing you also have to realize is you also have to repent. If you have any sin on your soul, repent. and help others repent. If there's people out there that aren't baptized, if you're a pastor or you're a priest or something, baptize the people that aren't baptized. Take the atheists, take the pagans, take the witches, and convert them over to Christ. Not their version, but convert them over, pray over them, pray for them, baptize them. And anybody that has a heretic, take them and convert them to Christ. It could be a very beautiful thing that'll come amongst it. Well, there's not much else to say other than it's just kind of interesting that I wasn't really prepared for the stream, to be honest. This is just kind of a last minute whim that I was going to save one for tomorrow, but actually, when I was thinking of tomorrow, I was thinking of that yesterday because it's already 12:36 a.m. Central Standard Time. So I guess we'll be doing. I decided I'm going to start re-editing the Dell video because I think if I make a new batch file, that'll work better. But I'm not going to be doing it on this machine that's sitting over here because this machine's got a RAM issue, and since this is a workstation PC, each memory module is about $64 a piece, and it's not your typical Samsung memory. This actually takes server memory, so it's not a server, but it's a workstation PC. But I don't think I want to spend $64 a piece for more memory, and that might not even fix the issue that it's having, because I think most likely it needs new drives, because the ones that are in here they're pretty much original when the PC was new, except for the few that I added to there. But I'm not going to get into that tonight, or this morning rather. But so I think since I got the stimulus check, wasn't as much as I thought, but I kind of got some different plans here for the office. I'm thinking possibly of doing internet sales at this point in time. I don't want to do the whole Facebook thing, but push comes to shove. Maybe I should get back on there and do the Facebook Marketplace, because that seems to be the popular thing right now. I don't care about this COVID-19 business. Sure, it's put a damper on the business, and nobody's been calling or anything because and that happens sometimes in the business. There's some weeks where you run out of work. Yeah, I got projects here, but it takes money to. Just because I got a stimulus check and I got tax return and stuff doesn't mean that you can blow it all on parts or projects you're working on. Basically, that money, since I don't have any cash flow coming in at the moment, I've put a lot of thought into earmarking that as rent money and emergency fund. Unfortunately, I got a check engine light on my van, so and I almost think I got to have blown head gasket or something because it smells. I got a sweet smell of coolant every time I run the vehicle. So It just never ends. Well, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I had an oil change, and I put 20,000 miles on that van since I've gotten it. It only had 123,000, and I'm up to, okay, I'm just shy of 20,000. I'm probably around 18,000 miles I've put on there. But I go all over with it. I get on the interstate a lot of times with it. Before this COVID business, I was going around like Manitowoc, Sheboygan, Green Bay, Appleton, and a lot of times I just use the interstate. And that's the best thing you can do for a vehicle is just running on the interstate at one consistent speed. Running it to, and then there's a lot of back road driving. And that, well, usually back road driving is a lot harder on a vehicle than it is on the interstate. It is a 2001, and everybody always tells me, "Well, you're so stupid for picking a Dodge. Why not go a Honda or Toyota?" Just because that they're supposedly better. I've had to play with neons before. Yes, and have not had a lot of good luck with foreign cars. I've only had one foreign car. I still have that car yet. I did a video on, or part one of the video that will eventually be getting uploaded to YouTube. That was my Infiniti that I bought about 5 years ago, and I sunk probably $7,000 into it already since having it. And to be exact, total probably for everything I've done to it so far, I probably got 8,000 stuck into it. And it was actually a stupid investment. I don't ever advise buying Infinitis. They're swanky cars and they're really cool and they're fast and they're really nice looking and they're very comfortable to ride around in. But if you're gonna buy a nice vehicle, get yourself a Dodge or get yourself a Plymouth or a Chrysler or a Jeep. But don't mess around with Infinitis. I'm lucky with this one. I got a 4-speed automatic transmission. And a lot of those now are CVT, and them things just go to pot. Usually within a year and a half to 2 years. Nissan has kind of gone downhill when supposedly Nissan is pulling out of the Renault partnership, so maybe Nissan vehicles will get better again. But for about 20 years, they're just a pile of crap. But the older Nissans, like from the 90s and like the 80s, Nissan trucks, those are in the Datsuns, those weren't bad. But I don't want an 80s truck as a daily driver because you're still going to have problems. The thing's like 30, 40 years old, and to depend on a vehicle like that for your daily driver, I don't advise that either. So Dodge has a pretty good lineup of pickup trucks, but you don't need a fully loaded truck either. That's a lot of people when they buy trucks, they want luxury trucks. You don't need a luxury truck. Cripes, you don't even need a brand new truck. All you need if you need a truck, get yourself like a 96 or a 97 Dodge Ram 2500 with a 5.9 Cummins. That Cummins engine will last you longer than the Magnum. Magnum's a decent engine, but I think the Cummins you get about 300,000-400,000 miles out of it. You might have to get it rebuilt at some point in time. You might have to get a head gasket, water pump assembly and that, but that's all normal upkeep of a vehicle. A lot of people, they think when you got to get brakes and tires that the vehicle is junk, but or you got to get axles and struts and but you got to think about it. A lot of vehicles are going to have that stuff wear out on it, especially if you don't take care of them. You beat them to death, and you run them to the ground. They're not gonna be reliable. But I always take care of my vehicles. I don't ever neglect them or do stupid stuff with them. I don't sit there and rev them until you're up in those 7,000 RPMs. People that do stupid crap like that, that's what ruins a vehicle. But there are some vehicles out there that, even if you take the best care of them in the world, they're just prone to having problems. And if you're going to buy a vehicle, let's say you've had like 2 or 3 Dodge Caravans before that, you'd probably want to go with another one because you're familiar with the vehicle. You know what to expect with them. I would probably, if something happened to that one and it was more expensive to fix than it would be worth fixing, I'd probably I'd buy another shorty van, but I get like a 2007. I get the last year that the shorty van was made. But I'd probably get the SXT or SE. Yeah, I'd probably get the SE, but I don't want the 4-cylinder one. I'd want the 3.3 liter. Or maybe I would just look for another 2001 or 2002, but a Grand Caravan with like a 3.8 liter V6. Not all the years they had that, and not all the trim packages had that, but for towing wise, I think that would be a lot better than even the Ford Windstars from that era weren't bad. But all those other vans out there, like the Chevy, like the Ventures and Luminas and Uplanders, I don't know, they just didn't make as good of a van. Not to harp on the Chevy diehards or the Ford diehards, but it's just, it's just sometimes those vans, the only one that seemed decent was the Windstar and the Aerostar. I see more Aerostar. I still see like 10 or 15 Aerostar vans, at least for a year's time, still on the road. And they're not all rusted out either. A lot of them are still decent looking. And even like the Ford Windstars, I've seen half a dozen that are rusted out and beat up. And I've seen a few that are still immaculate looking, and they don't scream teenager all over them either. And I see a handful of old Dodge Caravans on the road. Not a lot of 80s vans anymore. There's maybe 1 or 2 of them in the area that are still in service to this day. But I see a lot of them from like 94, 95, a lot of 90s, between 96 and 2000s, a lot of 2001s, and a big whopping amount of from 2008s to 2010s, and hundreds and hundreds and thousands of the modern Grand Caravans. So basically, Fiat Chrysler would make a huge mistake by discontinuing. I know there was rumors floating around for a while that they were going to discontinue the Grand Caravan, but maybe they don't understand this, and maybe they're stupider than crap on the bottom of your shoes. But the Dodge Grand Caravan is the bread and butter. It was never the Chrysler Town and Country or the Chrysler Pacifica. But an interesting thing, Chrysler brought back the Voyager. The Voyager was Plymouth had the Voyager up until 2000 when the brand Plymouth got demoted, basically. Chrysler had Voyager. But the difference between the Plymouth, basically the Plymouth van made the Dodge van look like the luxury line because the Plymouth, it was even more primitive than the Dodge was as far as the van. I don't even think up until like 91 was when they offered it in like a V6. And they still offered it in a four-cylinder up until, I would say, 2000. But that was only like I think the Plymouth was only like a 3-point liter. With a 3.3, you can tow up to 2,600 pounds maximum. But that excludes any weight that you have in the vehicle, including passengers. So you have to go according. So on a whim, so if you have like 4 passengers in the vehicle and they're all around like 150, 200 pounds, so you think, so you'd have about 400 pounds if you had like, just as a rough estimate. So you'd have to subtract that from 2,600. So we'll figure. So let's just check real quick here. So on a whim, you could tow about 2,200 pounds with a Dodge Caravan. And that's basically the only biggest trailer I would recommend towing with it comfortably without potentially burning out the transmission is like a 4x8 trailer that's good up to 2,000 pounds. So if you're hauling like, let's say patio brick or something, you could put about 2 layers of patio brick from the front to back. And that's, and the thing you got to remember is if you put any more than 2,000 pounds on there, you could sprung the frame of the trailer. True, a lot of trailers are tough, but if you go to your retail stores like Lowe's or Home Depot or Menards and you buy their prefabbed, or Fleet Farm, you buy the prefab trailers for like under $3,000. They're built cheap for a reason. And if you want to beef them up, you got to put plywood on the bottom, but it has to be treated lumber because otherwise it'll rot. And as an extra precaution, you might want to even paint it or stain it. My 4x8 trailer that I have at home, that was actually, I didn't get that retail. That was custom built from a guy. And that thing is quality. Actually, I didn't even buy it. That was left to me. It's basically a tilt trailer, but it's old looking, but it's not all rusted out. I always take care of it. I always keep it in the garage. Actually, I don't have it in the garage right now, but it's in a tent behind the garage. But basically, that one's good up to 2,200 pounds. And I've hauled, basically, what I like it for is I can haul drywall around plywood, 4x8 plywood sheets. So on a whim, let's say that, and it has sides on it, and so if you wanted to haul, so I could probably get about 20 sheets of drywall on there easily without springing the frame. And then you figure if you have 4x8 sheets of plywood, you could probably get about 20 of those on there without it being too heavy for the trailer. The sides are open, but they have bars in different places that mount to the frame of the trailer, so your cargo is not really going to slide around that much. And with the added extra weight in the back, it's the trailer. You got to look at it from this way. It's not, the trailer's not going to bounce around on you. So, and even you can haul patio brick, you can haul oxy stuff. I've even had times when I had something that was hanging over like 5 feet, and if you tie it to the sides of the trailer bed, well, what you can always do, you want to make sure that you tie your load down, because if you can't get the tailgate shut, because you don't want it sliding off on, like, if you're on the interstate. And you can do just put just about anything on there, as long as it doesn't exceed the maximum weight allowed to the trailer. Typically, like a yard tractor fits perfectly fine on there. So I'm talking one that's like a 38-inch rider. It's on the more smaller end. And you can push more on there. I've used it to haul lawn or power equipment around, and that won't exceed the weight of the trailer. And what's nice is it's tilt, or if you want to use ramps, you can throw ramps in there alongside, and then when you get it out, you just set the ramps up. There's some custom trailers. If you go to a custom trailer place, a lot of times they can build the ramps into the frame of the trailer. You just pull them out, but that may weaken the construction of the trailer, and then your price would probably go up. But you just go. A pair I have, they're from Harbor Freight, and that works just fine. I don't even know how I got into that topic, but it's kind of interesting anyway. The only thing that kind of I have a hard time fitting in there is larger garden tractors with like a 42-inch deck, or because it's not the tractor itself so much, but it's the deck that I have limitations on. And if you put an ATV in there, I'm talking like a Polaris Sportsman 500, it just barely fits. You pretty much have like maybe less than half an inch of the spare on both sides. So I'm not even sure how much that thing weighs. It's probably pretty much close. It's probably, I'd say, at least over 500 pounds that four-wheeler weighs. So that's the only thing I've ever hauled in there that was kind of questionable, that something maybe I shouldn't have. But basically with the Dodge Caravan, you definitely cannot haul a car hauler around. It's just that the vehicle is never meant for that kind of application. No minivan is meant to haul a car hauler. I've seen minivans on the road doing that, but it's kind of abuse to the vehicle. So, well, basically, next project that I'm thinking about doing is I bought a TV antenna. There's a guy on YouTube, the Antenna Man or something like that. And last year I bought for this office one of those Walmart $50 ONN rotary dial style antennas where you have a control. And the thing was a piece of crap. After about by August, the rotary dial quit working on there, and the antenna pretty much snapped in half. So that was $50 down the drain. That was for when I was selling TVs here, but I'm not going to get into the whole thing why I don't have all my TVs here anymore. One, I don't have the room, and two, I'm pretty much restricted to this whole room here, so it'd be nice if I could have the that whole back half of the building, because basically all this crap would shove it all back there, make that a workshop, and then have a larger showroom. And the room that's over, or the parlor room, and that would be a showroom as well. Actually, this whole building, if this was mine, that wall would come out. I'd pretty much gut this thing down to the studs, rip the floor up, put all new electrical in here, all new plumbing, fix the apartment upstairs, tear that garage down back over there, and then put up a new garage, take or re-landscape the yard, put a driveway in / parking lot. That's the kind of stuff I would do around here if this was my place. Head in the basement, put a sump pump in so it doesn't flood down there, fix the basement up, put better lighting down there, insulate the whole building, do away with the low gravity water or low gravity heating system, and put forced air in, air conditioning, and then, like I said, have the whole building rewired, do away with all that cloth covered wiring and crap. But it's not my building, and I don't have $1 million to spend on. I think before I waste my money on something like this place, I would. There was an opportunity that came up last year in the month of January. There was a property in this same town that I'm in right now. They're only asking $150,000 for it. It was 4 acres of land in the front, and then you got a big, huge 2,000 square foot garage in the back. It was only $150,000, but I didn't even have a quarter of that. I had maybe 1/10 of it, but there's a junkyard that's in there now, and they're ripping trees out, and it's very junky. I don't even know why you'd want a junkyard in the middle of town, to be honest. Just because Cleveland, Wisconsin has a salvage yard doesn't mean that Whitelaw needs a junkyard in the middle of town. Not only are you going to attract mice and vermin, but it's an eyesore. Looking at all it's bad enough when I'm working at the church that all you can see is junk piled around the building. And even if they put a fence up, I honestly don't think that they're going to be lasting there for many years to come. Now, if I acquired the property and I was more hard charging and aggressive, I would develop the land, and I'd probably build myself an establishment for doing what I'm doing, more suited than this kind of place. Don't get me wrong, I like this place. It's kind of quirky. It's kind of got nostalgia. A lot of it I don't really have access to, but I would probably be better at building my own place. I'd make it nice and big. Everything would be at one level. I don't think I'd have a basement, but that takes money, and I don't know if I'd ever be able to pay the loans back. So And I don't know how much longer I'm going to be here either because things just aren't going as well as I'd like. Not money wise so much, but just other things that are going on. And I'm not getting into that either. So, well, on that note, I'm going to try to hurry up and get that Dell Inspiron video finally done. And then half a dozen of other videos that are still pending. So we'll get done eventually. I'm not sure when. It's just for not having a lot going on, there's a lot going on. So on that note, God bless everybody. Keep the faith in Jesus. Don't surrender to doctors and medication and fear. Don't let the government walk all over you. Don't let TV walk all over you. Basically, just stop watching TV altogether. Read the Bible. Get out in nature. Listen to good Christian music like Paul Wilbur or something like, or similar artists. Go to church. Protest. Churches being open. Demand that church service starts again. You can do it. I got faith in you. If you know what the right thing is, go for it. It's not your. You can't just sit around and let people walk all over you. So, on that note, stay safe. Don't let fear rule your life. Don't let the government rule your life. Follow the teachings of the Holy Spirit. And we'll see you tomorrow.